Well, hello everybody. This is Claudio Lasala here. It's the virtual brown bag, that time of the day, that time of the week, when we get together here to share stuff. As usual, we're going to go over a quick introduction here, just to explain to folks what these meetings are all about, and also give people some time to join in. So these meetings are all about getting together here and share all sorts of things related to software development, life hacking, and related things. We share tips and tricks such as tools, shortcuts, maybe articles, books, blog posts, whatever it is. We share experiences, maybe some things that you've learned the hard way and you feel like other people could benefit from some tips there. We share also frustrations or difficulties. Maybe you're trying to do something and you cannot figure out why it's not working or what's the best, way to approach the problem. Well, bring it up here. Somebody else may have gone through the same problem, or if not, we can always just do a live troubleshooting session here. Sometimes we find the answer right there on the spot. Sometimes we at least, point you out in the right direction, or so we think. But it's all about having the conversation. That's what draws us here. There's not supposed to be a one-way type of conversation where one guy talks and everybody just listens. The idea here is one person brings something up and then everybody else just chimes in and send questions or comments or suggestions or whatever it is. Logistics, we do this every Thursday from 12 to 1 Central Time. Here on Live Meeting, it's open for everybody, free for everybody. Anybody who would like to share stuff or to learn stuff or doing both, it's always better. And this is a partial list of things we've covered so far. We've been all over the place. This list tends to grow over time as we keep learning new things, or where we start working with different things and we start having interest on different stuff that we want to bring up. So everything is fair game here. We have the official virtualbrownbag.com website where you can find more information about it. About what these meetings are all about, and also help us promote that with your friends, co-worker, everybody else. There we also keep track of the notes that we share here, links and everything else on the wiki. We record all these meetings and we make them available later after we've rendered the meetings and have uploaded to the Vidler website, so you can check it out there. You can also suggest topics there. You can either suggest a topic that you would like to talk about, or that you would like somebody else to talk about because you would want to learn something about it, right? So make sure to check out those pages. The way it works, somebody like myself or George or JB, whoever is available to start off the meeting like I'm doing right now, will do so. And then we just take turns into who's, leading the talk, so to say. And let's see what else. We use the live meeting Q&A feature to ask questions or to post links and to, just make comments or whatever else. But that is when you don't have a microphone. If you do have a microphone, just feel free to unmute yourself and, start talking whenever you feel like. Whenever you are going to be sharing something on live meeting, just let us know. We can promote you to a presenter through live meeting. That way you can get an extra feature there to start sharing something on your desktop, either a program or an area of your desktop or the whole thing, whatever it is that you would like us to see on your desktop. And if afterwards you have any ideas, questions, suggestions for things that we could try out to improve our experience here at the Brown Bag, please feel free to send us an email, contact us on Twitter, however you would like to do it. And so without further ado, I guess the way we normally roll, I usually have some things on my list that I would like to share that I've been collecting over the last couple of days or so. So something that's coming up this weekend is the Houston Code Camp. It's going to be on Saturday at the Microsoft facilities here in Houston. And I'm looking forward to go there. And this time around, I decided not to go present anything. I just wanted to go there and, sit at sessions and learn stuff. Because there's like 5 tracks going on and lots of good stuff there. There's like lots of overlapping sessions that I would like to see. And hopefully people are going to be recording. I know that I'm going to try to record a couple of sessions there. And if everybody does so. Eventually we can get like a whole bunch of those recorded so that people can watch there. So that's one thing, and of course, if you haven't signed up before, now it's too late because it's been sold out for like a month or two already, because we've maxed out the room there at Microsoft. So if you haven't signed up, just watch out for people posting videos and blog posts and stuff like that. Let's see. A couple of weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, one of the VBBers here, Scott Wirsham, I hope I'm not butchering his name, he sent me an email about using Vim with Visual Studio. And then I told him, well, I'm not using Visual Studio that much nowadays, but I am using RubyMine. And he said, well, there's also this other link here to using Vim within RubyMine. So it's essentially a plugin that you install. It's a free plugin, and then you can enable it when it's enabled, and you're editing text or just going through text, you can use Vim commands. I keep turning that on and off because sometimes I'm just trying to get something done, and then I'm not experienced enough with Vim, and then I get stuck. I'm like, screw this, and then I'll just disable it and do my normal thing. But I've been trying to spend at least like half hour a day just using the Vim commands in there, trying to get used to it, and it's good. I think it's the best of both worlds, because when I'm just doing the regular Vim editor, I miss things like refactoring and stuff of that sort. So I think it's a good way to get started using Vim. Let's see, what else? 2 links to free books that I found the other day. One is for CoffeeScript. This is called the Little Book on CoffeeScript. It's just a small book, I think it's just like 70 pages long or something like that. Free for everybody. It's a way to get started on CoffeeScript. The other one is this guy here. It's on MongoDB. Same deal, the little MongoDB book, by Carl Sigwin. This one I just barely started reading it. It seems interesting, and since I'm doing some stuff with MongoDB, I felt it was a good thing to have here on my library. And then finally, let me bring up this blog post of mine from a couple of days ago. So last week, Friday and Saturday, I was up in Austin for the Lone Star Ruby Conference 2011, and that was my first Ruby conference, so I was looking forward to it. I wanted to, just see what kind of sessions they had there, and, just what the presenters are like, how do they talk, kind of thing, what expressions do they use, because when you've been in the Microsoft realm for so long, you kind of get used to the normal jokes that people make, and the bias that people have towards certain things. So I was looking forward to it. So I just wrote up a little blog post about it. I remember last week when we brought up this conference, when we were just closing down the meeting here, Alper had asked, about the cost. He asked something like, why are Ruby conferences so expensive? And we didn't have a chance to talk about it. So I brought that up in a Google's group that we have for some folks here in Houston, and we got lots of feedback there. But my personal one is, well, it's $250 for a 2-day conference. I don't think it's like that expensive. Yes, it's very expensive compared to lots of free conferences that we have in the .NET space. But at the same time, if you compare it to like TechEd or PDC, that's now called Build, and all those conferences, $250 is nothing. Now, granted, you're not getting like a tablet of any sort, or like a tablet PC machine or anything like that. But as far as content is concerned, I mean, there is a lot of good stuff in there. So I was really pleased to have access to that kind of content. The conference went pretty well. It was interesting that there was just like one sponsor booth in there, because usually you go to conferences and sometimes it gets kind of hard to just walk among the crowd because there's so many sponsor booths and stuff that it's just too crowded. And there they had just one company, and it was just a small, table they had there. So that was kind of interesting. It was a different one for me. The keynote was really cool because after going to a bunch of like Microsoft-oriented conferences, every keynote was always the same. It's always the, okay, here's, some tool or some integrated, super fancy schmancy, whatever tool that's going to solve the world's hunger problem and, crap like that. And, it's just marketing stuff that I've never been interested in. And, well, at the Ruby conference one, it was nothing like that. I mean, throughout the entire conference, there's nothing like people pushing products just hidden, between the lines on the presentation. It was more like, okay, these are problems that we have in our community, with our tools, with our mindset, with whatever. Let's discuss this, right? What do you think it's right or wrong, or what do we have to do to improve it? And the guy closed the keynote with a line like this, that being a culture that reasons together, right? So the idea that it's all community driven, and they want people to essentially reason together, as opposed to having one company dictating what you have to do and just pushing that down your throat. This is more like, okay, let's talk, okay, what are the problems? What are we trying to solve in the real world? And how can we make that work for everybody, or at least to fit the needs of most of the people? So that was very interesting. And also the closing keynote, it blew me away. It was by Chad Fowler, and he essentially talked about serving customers, right? Because we keep talking about what tools are we going to use, what languages, what patterns, and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, we end up forgetting that, we're writing software for people, right? We're going to have actual people using the software. So whether the project has been successful or not, well, it depends on the people using it. I mean, people always talk about, successful projects are projects that have been done, within budget, on time, and blah, blah, blah. I'm not so sure about that, right? Because you may deliver all the features that you were asked for. You may deliver it, within budget, on time, and the project itself may still fail because there was a planning problem where the client thought that the end user would need X, Y, and Z, and as it turns out, no, they didn't need that because there is already another product that does that, and whatever the case is. So even though you may come within all those constraints, the project may not still be successful because people don't like to use that product, right? So on this closing keynote, Chad talked about stuff like that, and how should we approach the whole relationship with customers and things like that. So that was like an eye-opener, and something that was really inspiring. And to me, to see something like that at a conference, without closing with, okay, and here's a look to, whatever our version X plus 1 is of our tools and whatever else we want to sell you. There was nothing like that, so that was pretty cool. Let's see, what else? All the sessions there were 45-minute long, which at first I was like, as a presenter, I tend to like longer sessions because within 45 minutes it seems like I don't have time to explain everything that I would like to explain. But for some things it kind of worked for me, for some it just didn't. Like in some cases, like within 45 minutes I got the gist of what the guy was talking about. I made notes and I said, okay, now I'm gonna walk out of here and I'm gonna know what resources I should go look into to get a deeper understanding of things. But then for other things, I was like, oh man, come on, I need a little more than that. Like there was one session on metaprogramming in Ruby that was going well. The guy was basing himself on that book that I've brought up here, Metaprogramming in Ruby, and it looked pretty interesting. He had a good way of explaining things, but he didn't give us more examples, like sitting down, writing some more code, and giving us some just more examples of how we can use some of those things. So, 45 went by, and I'm like, oh man, I need more of that. So I keep going back and forth. Do I like 45-minute long sessions? Do I like the longer ones? I think it may depend on the topic. What is it that the guy is trying to explain, I guess. And also, I just posted a couple more session notes, things that I definitely want to check out, or just put it here so that I wouldn't forget. One of the things was this idea of a view layer, because a couple of months ago, when I just got started on Rails, I mentioned, coming from, several months, or actually a couple of years of doing WPF and doing model view model. So we have this view layer, right, where the view is not just the thing that you render, but also the objects that you need to make that thing work. Either if you have a view model, either if you have a presenter, or whatever it is that goes along with the view. And I noticed that in ASP.NET MVC, people are also using view models as a way to just, shape the data that's going to get consumed by the view. And when I got into Rails, I didn't see any of that, right? Because you go on your controller, within the action, you're going to, usually the way I've seen people do is, you go on your controller, you create some properties there, you do the @ sign and the name of the property within the action in the controller, and that becomes available to your view. You can use it. And then the presenter on this session, he said, well, when you were within a view, how do you know what exactly can you show on that view, right? Because, well, I guess you could go to the controller and see what's made available there. But if you do something like from within the view, you do self.inspect, which essentially just, dumps out everything you have on that current object. Man, there is a lot of stuff that comes along with a view, and it's very hard to figure out, actually what you want in there. So then he started making this point of, sometimes we poke fun at Microsoft guys and blah, 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 but I was looking at a pattern that they use there, this thing called view model, and I was like, yeah, it's like, really? But then essentially, so the guy figured out, right, or refigured out that, yeah, we may need to get the model wrapped up into some sort of object that we use to massage the data that we want to expose to the view. Also, he mentioned, we do all this MVC stuff. We have objects all over the place. But when it gets to the view, we use all of these helper methods in Rails to print out, like, if you have, customer first name, customer last name, we create a little helper method that's going to concatenate those. Or do some transformation. So we go object, 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 procedural, right? Because those helper methods are just procedural code. And then he said, well, if we have this class that's a decorator for our model, and we put methods in there, and I'm like, that's just a view model, right? So why is it that it took so long for the guys in the Rails community to start looking into that, right? Because it's always kind of felt kind of smelly, that part related to the views in there. So anyways, he created this Draper gem, which is really just he calls the decorator. It's really, for us in the .NET, coming from the .NET background, it's a view model, because essentially he decorates a model by creating a couple extra properties and some methods there to render some stuff. And that's what it looks like, right? So he creates this decorator. It says it decorates a given model, and then he sticks some extra methods in there to expose that to his view. And then on the controller, he just gives that get back to the view. So just something I made a note there to check it out, and I'll try that on one or two pet projects here, see how that feels, and if it's something I'd like to use. So that was something interesting. It was probably the session that I could relate to the most, because the other ones, there were so many sessions that flew way over my head because I'm too young into this world. But this one specifically came at a time where I'm like, yeah, I'm questioning that. I'm feeling like I need something like that in Rails as well. Let me see. There's a comment here from Over. Why would you need a gem to create the view model? Well, because this is going to, what he is doing is to create a dynamic proxy, essentially, which is something that I did do in WPF. There were cases in WPF where all I was doing was to wrap the model, expose pretty much all the properties on the model, plus a couple more properties and a couple more commands and stuff like that. So I didn't want to create my view model creating one single property for every single property that I have on my view model. So with C#4 and the dynamic stuff, what I did was to create a dynamic proxy or a dynamic view model where I would give the model to the view model, and then the view model would look at the properties on the view model and just expose dynamic properties, because WPF data binding does work with dynamic properties like that. Right, so that was just a little component that I created. I could have called my, my gem in WPF that does that. And here, this is the same thing that he's doing, right? So he is saying this decorator here decorates this article model. So based on that, it's going to expose properties based on each property available to that article, as well as the method. So here's the other thing, right? Because a model like this in Rails, you can do something like article.find and then some criteria. So here, the other thing that he exposes are the operations in that article object. So he could instantiate the article decorator and say my decorator.find and whatever, and then he doesn't have to recreate that find or redefine that find in the decorator. He can just pass that through to the article that's being wrapped in there, right? So that's why it's a gem. It's just a class that at the end of the day, I mean, this may be one class or a couple of classes, but it's just something that wraps up that functionality of creating this dynamic decorator there. So that's, I mean, as far as I got out of the talk. I may be missing something there because I haven't looked deeper into it, but it did sound interesting. All right, so that's what I had. I thought it was going to take like 5 minutes, and it took me 25 minutes to talk about this.
Hey, Claudia, sorry for the Parallels was hating on me. But what did you hear from Lodestar Ruby conference? Like, so I don't rehash it.
Oh, so
did you just sure.
I went over my blog post here, whatever I had it. Yeah, because early on this week I just blogged about some of my notes about the conference, right? How we've enjoyed like the keynotes. They were not like product specific. They were more like, okay, as a community, what do we need to do? Where do we want to go? As somebody who's serving or writing software, we are really writing software for people. I mean, the closing note by Chad Fowler, I think, was just brilliant. It was very inspiring. I came out of it like pumped, like yes, that's good stuff. Talk quickly here about the 45-minute sessions. Kind of like I'm not sure I like or I don't like. I've been on the fence on that one. And then I just started talking about some of the notes that I had there, and like the session that I guess most appealed to me or made more sense to me, or that I could understand most of it, was this one where the guy was talking about a view layer and figuring out, oh yeah, we may need a view model in Rails after all, kind of thing. And that's it, and I guess that's where you joined.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I'm looking at your list of things. I think JavaScript was a big carry out from Lodestar. That there was a good number of presentations on JavaScript.
Yeah.
At a Ruby conference. So that's a skill set everyone probably needs to brush up on. And I think Jesse's presentation was great, and I love his quote thing of jQuery is not a programming language.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the big thing. Lesson I've learned hard. Is just because you've done jQuery doesn't mean you know anything about JavaScript.
That's right.
Crazy. What was the name? Adhesion? What was it? Yeah. So adhesion is a cool gem framework for Ruby for integrating with telephone systems.
Right.
I think it's a layer, kind of like a Sinatra on top of and so it integrates with like Asterisk and Turbo. It was pretty cool. It was an impressive presentation. I've never done, we did one project where that was a small feature and we integrated, and I didn't do it, so I don't know all the pain points, but it wasn't easy. But this looked pretty impressive, like you could use Ruby and develop a pretty straightforward system on integrating with telephones.
Right.
So I was duly impressed. So next time someone says, "Oh, we need to integrate with this telephone system," it isn't going to be going, "Oh no, I don't know how we do that."
Right.
It answered a lot of those questions. So that would be something to check out.
Cool.
I'm trying to look at stuff. It was good. I think the keynotes were the most impressive.
Yep.
The James Edward Gray II, his stuff was really good. I liked his talk. I think a theme could be carried out there of refocusing what actually makes a good programming and what are we trying to accomplish here. And I guess you can get sort of definitive on the testing and not testing stuff, because on one hand, if you're coming from someone who's never tested before or who doesn't even agree or like the test, they can latch on to this idea of we're not supposed to test, blah, 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 blah. And because these people who used to test now say that we might not need to test. And that ties into the whole binary thinking that there's a lot of encouragement. It was, a lot of people were talking about, like, we should avoid binary thinking. Like, you have to test everything or you don't test at all. You got to be pragmatic about your testing.
Right.
I do have to say, I think Scott's a big component. He's over here today. That I'm not going to test because as a startup we don't have time to test doesn't seem like the right strategy. I think what you end up having is that yes, you're a startup and you end up having crazy code that later on you try revisiting and everything breaks and everything's crazy because you have to do this other version. I think with a startup you just be pragmatic about it, like any other project. It's like you might not be able to do test-driven development or test everything, but test some core components. Test the most important part of your app. And so that was a good talk, I guess. People encouraging, and it's nice to have the things I've been thinking about of the keynote people and the people around there asking the same questions, and so that's what I like about it.
Right. Yeah, and the whole test, like last night, it was like 1 in the morning. I was trying to wrap up some features here on the one project I'm working. And I was just like so glad to have my test here because I'm looking at this, I'm running through the site and trying some things out, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this case. Well, let me go to my Cucumber feature and add those steps that I feel like, yeah, when the user is doing this, it should also have, this should happen and this other thing. And then just that exercise made me think of at least like 3 or 4 other things that I totally forgot about, right? Or that when I originally wrote it, like, I don't know, a month ago, I thought that was the right thing to do, but as I'm growing the system with my client and we are learning more about their business, those assumptions didn't make perfect sense anymore, or they were pretty close, but there were still things we had to fix. Well, if I didn't have my tests, I would not have seen that, right? And when I've run that through my client today, he was like, oh yeah, you were absolutely right. How did you catch that, right? And then I could probably say, oh, yeah, because I looked at my tests, and when I was reading them, that's what made sense, that we had to make these changes. Right? So, going from there where you're thinking from the human's perspective, the person using this, and of course, if it makes sense, write the damn test. If it's something that, it's going to take you, so long to write the test, and you're not going to be getting a lot out of it, so then, well, whatever, screw it, don't do it, right?
I will say that one thing, that actually writing out the specifications in the format that you would in Cucumber or Jasmine or whatever, just writing the specifications down is probably going to get you like 50% of the way there, and not even having any sort of automated testing or anything like that.
Yep.
But writing it out in that format is huge. Like, because right now, like, I'm actually just in a position where we don't have a lot of logic, or a lot of logic is basically just logic in the view. So we're not writing any tests particularly for it, but we're, I'm still writing out the view logic specifications, and that's starting tons of conversations and helping catch lots of bugs.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I've been loving, the Cucumber stuff because now it's really starting to pay off. All this talk that I heard before about BDD and trying to do that in C# and everything, it was still not BDD, right? We were kind of driving out the behavior of objects and stuff like that, but we were not driving out the behavior of the system as a whole. Right, that's how I felt, at least looking back at lots of tests that I wrote in the past. It's like, yeah, I was testing a whole bunch of stuff, and I was, I don't know, testing my assumptions on certain things, but I couldn't take that and show that directly to the customer without me explaining to him, oh, this is what I meant within, these lines here. I don't know, it just, the more I go back to my Cucumber features and I exercise them, the happier I am that I'm doing this right now.
Yeah, I had a discussion with Jesse on the way, I think, to Mozilla Ruby conference. We're talking about Cucumber versus RSpec. But to me, I'm big on Cucumber, and then I do RSpec out the models, and things are more complex, in particular things where it's like I've had a couple bugs associated with them. I'm like, I'm going to RSpec this thing out. So I detail out all the different steps, but I do Cucumber more for my entire system. So I do more of Cucumber to drive out my development. And I find that to go workflow. But in his project, they don't really use RSpec more, and he's gone back and forth. That's why it was a good discussion, because he was like, hey, this is RSpec more, then I went Cucumber more, now I'm back on RSpec more, and he's seeing more and more people do that. And his discussion is that their Cucumber test takes forever to run. I forgot how long it takes to run, but it's ridiculously long because they have so much JavaScript stuff. And that's the thing I'm not really keen on, is doing the JavaScript stuff, because it slows it all down. And to me, I was like, so it's not Cucumber so much as sucks. It's that it takes so long to run your Cucumber test because you're doing all this JavaScript stuff when, you should just remove that out to some other thing, and so they sort of do it. But it was a good discussion, because I think it's a matter of preference on what you like more and how you write your Cucumber tests. Like, because I think, Claudia, we've paired many times on HC that I have a very particular style on my Cucumber. That's my goal a lot of times, is I want to capture very high level actions, and if a change happens on the implementation, I want to have to change a step, not change the Cucumber feature.
Correct.
So I'm very, very generic. So I don't do things like a lot of times, like I enter blah, blah, blah username and the user field in my scenario step.
Right.
I do something like, and I enter my username, or I enter my login. And so what enter I login means changes over time, but logging in, that step remains pretty constant.
Right. Yeah.
Stuff to have in the future when I can actually pair and show my stuff, which should be soon.
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully.
Show the differences. Yeah.
Right. Cool. Let's see, there's a question here from Alper. Say you're working on your great web app idea. Do you think you should go ahead and write features in Cucumber? If you, the developer, are the customer and you can read code, is it necessary to write the tests in Cucumber plain English? Well, speaking for myself, yeah, I would go ahead and write the features, because what I do is, if I'm writing actual code, I'm thinking too much about the code and the implementation. If I'm writing the plain English feature, I'm thinking from a user standpoint, right? I'm thinking, okay, as a user, I want to do this because of this, that, or the other, and because it's just text, and I put that in Evernote, I can shift that text around however I want without thinking about like source control and getting syntax right or any crap like that. Right? I just flush out the ideas out of my system. Once I got to something that I feel is reasonable, then I start coding. But everything from my previous experience, every time I would just go in code and start writing that, as for as much discipline that I have, I would still be seeing curly braces and semicolons, and I would be thinking implementation details when I really shouldn't. So that's my take on it. What about George, JB? What do you guys think?
I would do the same reason George was saying. By writing the stuff out as English, you're clearing your mind on what exactly the feature should and shouldn't do.
Right.
That's why I like it. And then it also, I mean, a lot of times when you're developing a feature after, I mean, even down to like web, you're like, I do a little bit here, refresh the browser, do a little bit here, refresh the browser, do a little here, refresh the browser. And I'm like, why am I doing this when I can do the same thing in Cucumber? This little step inside there, in my steps, I can say, and show me the page, and that's how I do my development. So I'm at the first step, I'm like, okay, show me what the page looks like. Okay, I do this. Show me the page, show me the page, show me the page. And so that's how instead of hitting refresh, I'm running my Cucumber test over and over again. So I'm killing two birds with one stone there. I'm building my test, and I'm implementing the feature. So same thing for styling too. You want to make the view look right? I'm doing my Cucumber test.
Right.
I say, show me the page, and I have my CSS, and I do that stuff.
Right.
I will say that, you know, even if you don't have executable specifications, like I don't, put those directly in your, you know, your project manager software. So I put it directly in Fogbone as a comment on the feature that I'm working on, and it's actually a really, really good indicator of when it's time to break out that feature into sub cases, because that spec is just getting way too large. And it's right there, so that yes, if it was executable like a Cucumber, it would make a little more sense to keep it in the code. But if you're not doing that, just keep it right there with all the other requirements.
Right. Makes sense. All right, let's see. There's a comment from Rick here. He says, I recently read an article where a senior level developer would write the features and then pass them to the team to implement. Yep, that would make sense.
I actually think that's the best form of pairing. Is the two people sit together,
right,
and one person, and they sit together and they agree on the test, on what they should test, and then one person writes the test and the other person writes the code. And then you can swap back and forth. I like that type of pairing more because because everyone sits there and they think they agree, and then when you sit down and you actually code, you find that there might be little discrepancies on what you actually agree to. And then you keep on going that route. This Cucumber is a little bit different because you get Cucumber tests in together, and that's fine. But like it'd be RSpec. I'm really more talking the .NET side because it'd take a little more effort to write your MS test or in unit.
Right.
So,
I hate that. Let me just say that. Well, at least what I think that's implying. Because my interpretation of that is that the senior developer was writing the features and writing so basically determining what specifically needed to happen and giving it off to the junior developers. That is so egomaniacal. Why does the senior developer have a better idea of what's going on in the website? Presumably only because they've done more work, they have better access to the client, or they've done more work with actually doing business analysis. Well, I mean, put the junior developer closer to that, unless if you have some, specific reasons for not doing that. And you, first of all, you shortcut a lot of possible, miscommunications because you've got one less link, and I mean, and you're still not. I don't think you're really gaining anything in that way, except for, the feeling of control that the senior developer then has. I think, senior developers are dealing.
I can see.
Yeah. You're for deal with senior.
I didn't really see that from the negative side of that, but
yeah.
I didn't see the side of what you're talking about, but that makes sense. I didn't really view it from that perspective. I guess I was viewing it as two people collaborating together and making sure that the tests are all.
And that's cool. But yeah, my understanding of that question was more that it was over the fence handoff, which I really dislike.
Oh yeah, no, it can't be. I think the benefit of having a senior developer overlooking the features would be just so that if the guy is the one that's is directly talking with the client, trying to come up with like the roadmap for what has to be implemented. The senior developer, and I guess it's one of those, the senior developer may be the one writing the features, but just, I guess, formalizing the thing as something written, but he is working with the clients and trying to understand with the client, okay, within these features, what are the scenarios that we want to implement, by what, milestones and so on and so forth, where the junior developer may not understand those things. Right, if it was just a junior developer working on those, it may just go like, oh, I just want to code. Just give me the stuff and I'm going to start coding, right? That's what like I would see myself right now. If I have like 2 or 3 developers working with me and they are not as integrated with the client and understanding the actual product that's being delivered, I would feel a lot more comfortable working with the client, figuring out what they actually need, by what milestones they need, and then handle those over to the junior developer. And then from there on, the junior developer could just start improving the stories with the clients. But first, I would filter out, just to avoid people like going and spinning their wheels for things that should wait until like milestone 2 or milestone 3. I guess it depends on
the size of teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, and size of teams, because I've seen shops and stuff, and been in shops where I can see where that'd be a little more applicable, because just the size of the team is such that, because George is like, well, to bring the junior developer closer to the users or the people making the feature requirement, more that might not be possible, because there can't be, like, there's tons of meetings and there's tons of stuff, and they need to be working, and so maybe the lead is being the representative for several other people.
Right.
I don't know about. So I think, again, it's one of those binary thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fine if it works. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
That's right, yeah, because depending on
works for one up, and it's great. So.
Yeah, and depending, I guess, like I said, on the size of the team and the specialization of each member, it may not even be the lead developer or the senior developer. It may be just what do you guys call the business something? What's the name of the guy? Business analyst, right? The BA working with the client and writing those stories, right? It may not be the senior developer at all working on those, because the senior developer may be a guy that's really good with the technologies and all that, but he may not understand the business or what's important for the customer in a business sense. So I guess every team may be different, and will be different actually. So that's that. And then Rick says, and the senior developer should code review the work. Well, I guess that ends up happening one way or another. I guess it should, until you get the individual members of the team to, implement things in the way that's considered the desired way within the team. There's always going to be a need for the senior developer to review code. Been there, done a lot of that.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, the senior developers knows by the fact that he's senior, knows more about what frameworks are available, knows the conventions and everything.
Yep,
of course. And the senior developer is ultimately helping make the judgment about whether, maybe this junior guy just sucks and should get fired or something like that.
Yeah.
So that totally makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
What I don't think makes sense is for them to be determining completely what work should be done and then passing it off to like a junior guy as if there's some sort of compiler, because determining what work should be done is like most of the work. It would be way faster to just do it yourself at that point.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, like any of the more difficult stuff, like figuring out like how a particular JavaScript widget works or anything, they're probably going to need to contact a senior guy anyway.
Right. Yep. All right, that's good stuff. That's cool. Hey, JD, did you get your stuff worked out to do some Vim magic?
I just shared the slides, which I really wanted to do, because I want to vet some stuff out. I guess here, let me.
Yeah, before you say anything. Before you say anything, Alfred just said, "Yay, Vim!"
So what I'm going to do is go through, just show the outline and kind of talk high level because we don't have that much time anyway. And Alper would be good vetting too, and Claudia just like this makes sense for the presentation, and if I have the right attitude, I'm approaching with it. So if you promote me to presenter, I'll share and just type stuff up.
Sure.
I'll type some stuff in Vim. How about that?
All right. There you go.
Share. All right. All right. So, for those interested in them or do whatever, I'm going to turn on easy mode as a type. I'm going to put I, so I'm in edit insert mode. I'm going to type this up. So in my outline, I'm going to have a Vim introduction, or I'm basically going to talk about what Vim is and what it isn't, and I'm going to go through it. And here's just my humor approach to it is that I'm doing like a text editor. It's sort of like a bicycle that, it gets you places. It doesn't have that many features. You have to do a lot of work yourself, but it's a good first start. And then you graduate from bicycles and you get to a little more advanced text editors. It's kind of like Notepad 2, and those are more like cars that, they get you there efficiently. You have more features, you have cruise control and AC, so it's a little bit better, and it's more for a small, like you only need a couple of people to work on and stuff, like in a project, so you can all pile into the same car and use the same car. But even then, this class, you can have cooler cars because TextMate 2 is really cool, so it's like a sports car. And then on those you have IDEs, and IDEs are more like, I relate like airplanes. So like you get in the airplane cockpit and there's like all these buttons, all these switches, and change is really hard, and like you got to do what you need to do. You can't take an airplane and you're like, I want to go shoot like a submarine. No, it's airplane. So that's for bigger teams and bigger, more complex projects. And then where does Vim fit in? And this is for sci-fi reference people. Vim to me is more like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. It's like you can travel in time, in space, and you can do everything. And if you ever see the show, the TARDIS has like all sorts of these weird buttons and knobs and things. So when they go on the show, they're like pushing and pulling and doing all the stuff, and you don't know what they're doing, but they're traveling through time, and that's like Vim. It's like you go in there and watch someone work, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? You're like pressing all these buttons, and the cursor's jumping around. They're doing all sorts of crazy things. And so that's Vim.
Right.
Now, after I talk there, I'm going to talk about the modes. And so here we have, normals will be more for navigating, editing is going to be editing visual for grouping. And I'm trying to figure out how I want to capture that exactly. To me, I was viewing it like visually that it's almost like, it's sort of like Kung Fu, where I view like normals, like you're jumping around, you're flying like old Chinese Kung Fu movies, like they're just flying everywhere and going to different things. And then the edit's more like when they actually punch, it's like a really quick jab, and so the whole point is like I don't want to focus on productivity. They don't want to be that fast. So what I want to focus on is a lot more about controls. Like you go exactly where you need to go, and then you do what you need to do and you get out. It's not spending a lot of time in this edit.
Right.
And then I'm going to talk about common commands and patterns. And so inside here, I'm going to talk a little more about like the edit stuff is going to be like navigating, editing, and grouping. Then the common commands and patterns, I'm going to talk about like the buffer and repeating last command, undoing last command, and some patterns for combinations on how you combine certain commands together to get more additional functionality. And then I was going to talk about plugins, where you can use some plugins, the popular plugins, and how plugins work. I'm going to talk about vimRC, what vimRC is, what it does for you, how you can extend it, and how you can customize your Vim experience, and then color scheme. And color schemes is how you get your different coloring outlet and how do you change it and so forth. So that's kind of like my outline. Does that make sense? I'm viewing it as like, if I can get all that done in an hour or 15, that's pretty impressive. But I don't know. I'm not sure I can squeeze it all in there. Is there anything in particular, like Albert, I'm directing to you and Claudia, that you would like to hear more about, or you feel like, yeah, that's not really, I don't really care?
You know, one thing that, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Vim, yes, one is the Vim presentation. It's on Saturday. It's going to be over at Houston Code Camp. After, we'll see if it's being recorded or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I'll be...
Next week, Brown Bag, I'll share what I have.
Yeah, I'll be definitely sitting in that session because it's stuff I want to learn, and I'll be recording it. So hopefully we should have it out next week.
Yeah, we will, Matt. Should be good. So, Claudio, from your standpoint, how much do you know about like plugins, vimRC, and color schemes?
I know zero.
Okay, because see, this is kind of the tab, like, because to me, this is the confusing area, where it's like, okay, this is what makes Vim hard to learn, you know, but after you learn it, you got a lot of control. To me, I'm capturing the two main things of these: control and customization. And the bottom part is the customization aspect. This is what makes it really fun. Is when suddenly you take control over your environment and you have a lot more say in how you interact with it. So this is, to me, the first part is about the learning curve. This is the learning curve, and then this is where you learn to master it.
I see.
So here's some things I want to share for this intro. Oh, here, let me make sure. Here's some things I've learned with the stuff. So, of course, word navigation. So I want to jump to different words. I can just press W. So navigate to different words. If I want to go back, I can press B, and then it goes back. But then there's also big W, which does big word jump. So if you take a look here, you notice let's go back. I did word, I go to the comma, then I go editing the comma, then and. And so if I go back, I go big W, notice it skips over the comma. Well, it doesn't make much sense there, but if I did something like for howdy equals whatever dot o world and stuff. So now I'm at the end of the line. I want to go back to the beginning. I use the Shift 6, so a little caret. I go to the beginning. If I do little w, I jump between here. And notice I jump and I stop at the little dots and little parentheses and the pluses. If I go back and I do big W, notice I skip over all of the little tiny breakpoints inside there. So big W is big jump, word jump, little W, little word jump. The other aspect of what I just shared is like here. So jumping back and forth on a line. The beginning of the line is the caret, end of the line is a $sign. So you jump back and forth. My big thing I see that's kind of a pet peeve for mine, see I'm using the arrows just to show, is when someone is like, oh, I need to add something at the very end of the line, and they go, and then they press append. So, and they're there. And I'm like, oh, why'd you press it like 12 million times? So when we go back, if I want to go to the end of the line, I can just press Shift A, booyah.
Right.
I'm at the end of the line, and I'm already in edit mode. So if I want to do the same thing for the end, at the beginning of the line, I do Shift I for insert, and I jump all the way to the beginning, and I go in insert mode.
Right.
So that's one of my pet peeves that I'm going to harping on. I'm going to be like, because I see people doing it, I'm like, oh my god. Like,
yeah. And it's fun because, or it's actually hard for me because on the Windows, I've always been using like to go to the end of the line, Control End, right? Control Home to go to the beginning of the line and stuff like that. And of course, none of that works on the Mac, and that's been driving me nuts.
So there's other little things that part of navigating that makes it fun. One is replace word. Those are part of the combos pattern. So let's say I want to replace word. I do C is for replace and W for word. So I just CW and I replace the word with something else. And escape gets me out.
Right.
Another combo that's pretty cool is append at end word. So I'm here at Here I'm pressing the thing. I'm here in the middle of the word. I want to go to the end of it. So W jumps to the beginning of the next word. But if to jump at the end of my current word, I press E. And at the end of this word. So what if I want to add something to the end of this? Let's go here. I want to add a semicolon, let's say, or something. I want to go to the end of this word. I can do E, A. And now I'm at the end of that word, and I'm in insert mode. So there's little combos like that. When we start learning how to put these combinations, you start getting these operations you do, put it together.
Right.
Let's see what else I have here. I'm just kind of highlighting the presentation. It should be pretty good because I'm covering a lot of commands and some basic patterns. Okay, so here's another one, little things that I like. A lot of the commands like I'm showing are going to be things I like. So there's probably other really cool stuff that I'm not a really big search regex guy and replace a whole bunch of stuff. I don't really do all that much stuff like that. But I'm on this line. I want to add a new line to here. I can just press O. That is a big one for me.
Nice.
So I'm here. I want to do another, like, oh, I want something above this. Shift O. Right. And immediately it gives me space, and I'm immediately in insert mode. So it's stuff like that that I find useful. Let's say I want to delete this line. This is delete and cut is the same thing. So if I want to delete the line, I just press DD. So if I also want to, let's say I want to cut the line, DD, and then I want to paste it. Let's say at the end of the project, so I did Shift G at the end, and then I can just do, I think I can do this. Yeah, P.
Right.
So cutting, pasting, and things. Okay. Okay, cool. Hey, I'll get your bill later today. Thanks. Sorry for that. Cutting, pasting. So if I want to copy this cell, it's yanking. So YY yanks this, and I can paste it again. So right. There's a little thing like that. I'll show that it's getting the right combo. Say I want to yank a word, YW, and paste it. La 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 la.
Right.
I would say, like, so I have this. I want to delete word. Delete word. I want to paste it. And I want to repeat that last command. I can do P again, or I can just do dot, repeat the last command. So a lot of times, if you want to indent something, what I can do is I did shift, just greater than, and then I can just press dot to keep on doing it. Or I'm going to do shift less than, or
right. And there is the deal of there is a deal of repeating the command, right? So if you want to say delete 3 words from here, do something like 3 DW or something like that.
Yeah, there's different combinations. So I'm going to show you some of those patterns. Like, I don't have any in my demo right now, but
right.
Like there's groupings of things together and then saying repeat this operation.
Right. That's cool. Well, here's
which is pretty.
Let's say here, there's a comment from Alper there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that sounds pretty good. I'll add that Alper to. So he's saying, for impression's sake, you may want to mention that it's been around for decades, as long as running open source project that he knows of, and also there's this is a single technology that's not going out of style. So I'm going to copy this, and I'll add that to my introduction notes. Because it's kind of like, that's what the intro is really going to be about. Like, this is what it is, this is why to learn it, what's cool about it, etc.
Right.
And that you can go on any computer and you probably can find it.
That's right. You know, maybe something that you could just have a note there is to mention where else can we use. Like, for instance, is there anything like that if I'm like operating the browser, for instance? Can I use vim commands on the browser? Is that I'm saying to navigate around? Or where else? Like, okay, I know that in RubyMine there's a plugin, there's something for Visual Studio. Where else can we use that?
Okay. So I do have a talk on resources where I share several links of where you can get info.
Cool.
We shared them here, but I'll share them again. So Vimcast are huge. At least I like them a lot. Peak Code has some good sessions, and then there's also one I discovered, or someone put on the link called with Derek Watt's blog, and he has Vim tutorial videos. I watched one partially through, and it was pretty impressive. That's how I learned the Shift W. I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. So, it should be something I picked up, but I never picked it up.
Right.
Also, Vimy is a good tool.
Right.
And that's just an iPhone, iPad app that you can have as a resource. So I have it on both devices, and I go through it
using it too.
when I find myself thinking, because you probably seen me college, sometimes I'm like doing something, and then I'm like, you know what, I just did that in like 20 key presses when I'm sure I can probably do that same thing with less. So then I undo it, and I go through Vimy, and I look at the different operations and try minimizing it.
Right.
Seeing how many keystrokes can I do it in.
That's right. Yep. Oh, and cool. Thanks, Oper. He just sent some links there. Vimperator for Firefox, Vimium for Chrome, and viEmulator. I don't know how that's supposed to be read. viEmulator.
Okay. I'm putting that in my tools section.
Right.
Yeah, so the kind of goal is for me to have is my target audience here is people who've never really used them, who maybe are interested in them, or people who've kind of started and are looking for more to expand their knowledge. I'm not going to I view a lot of them presentations are like, look what I can do, and look how cool I am, and look at how fast I'm coding, and I don't think the speed and the productivity is important. I think it's how you feel when you work with the tool and how customized it is. We've talked about several times, whether ReSharper or CodeRush or do whatever, Visual Studio, know your tool, know and own it and master it. And I think I like them because there's always more things for me to master and get better at.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Good stuff, man. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Plugins for people. Pathogen for managing your Vim plugins. There's, I think it's Fugitive is the Git plugin. There's also a Rails plugin that lets you manage your Rails stuff better. And I know I need to use more of those features. I use very little of them. Those are the big ones. Of the plugin thing I'm going to cover, which is something that Ben pointed me out to, and I realized there's a Janus group, or let me see if I can get that here. Janus. It's basically an opinionated package for Mac Vim Rails development. And it makes managing all your plugin stuff a lot easier. It looks cool. Like, it comes packaged with several plugins you'll find useful. And then you can extend that and it already comes prepackaged with some functions in the VimRC, and you can extend on that. And like if you add more plugins and you want to update them, you just have to just run rake, and it does it for you. So all I have to do is, let's see, so update the latest version, you just run rake and it gets the latest plugins. Here's some tutorials associated with the site. And it shows some music commands. So this is a pretty good first start. Oh, and Nerd Tree, that's another one I want to show. Nerd Tree for the file drawer.
By the way, are you going to be running it on the Mac or on the Windows for your presentation?
On Mac. I'm going to be using my Mac distro.
Right. Make sure to right. Yeah, just make sure to like have Windows specific information, like, you know, if you're on the Windows, this is what you have to install kind of thing, or this is what, maybe have like a screenshot of what it looks like on the Windows, just that it can appeal to both browsers.
For the plugins and VimRC, I am going to be doing that. As part of that, where is this file? Where can you put it? It's a little bit different for Windows and Mac, because I'm going to show both locations.
Cool.
But I'll be on my Mac.
Yep, cool.
I did a presentation at the Baton Rouge user group yesterday, and I did it on my Ubuntu machine, virtualizing Windows and dropping back and forth into that. And my Ubuntu install is virtualized Whoopee to begin with. Minds were blown.
Awesome.
Like, I need to try this thing because it comes packaged with a lot of cool plugins and stuff, and I'm not gonna have to manage that anymore. But it's one of those where it's like when I first learned, I'm glad I did it all myself. But now since I've done it all to myself, I'm like, I want my life to be a little bit easier, and so this looks like it'll make my life easier.
Right.
So I might give this a shot. I probably won't do it for this weekend. I think next week I might switch over.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, good stuff. Was that?
It's past 1 o'clock. So
Yeah.
I got to get to the meeting.
Time just flies by. Oh, I have to get back to work. That's odd. All right, cool, guys. That was good stuff. We had some good discussion, some good stuff going on here. Made some notes of everything. Look forward to being at the code camp over the weekend. I'll try to record as many sessions as I can, given my battery and memory constraints on my camera. But other than that, thanks a lot, everybody who stuck around here, and I'll see you guys all next week. Bye, everybody.